Okay, so this is part 2 of my notes with regards to the Dateline episode for Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 murders. If you have not seen part 1, please go watch that first, so that's going to segue right into this one. So where I left off, there was this Korean exchange student called New Young that apparently liked Bryan, and they were kind of both outsiders is what they're painting the picture as, and that they connected like that, but Bryan rejected her. So when they said Bryan rejected her, it made me think about the girls that he's getting at the pool party, their numbers, right? And then 2, they're talking about him being an incel, meaning he's involuntary celibate, meaning he does not get girls' attentions, and that's where his anger comes from with regards to killing these kids, right? But he is getting attention from females. If they're saying that this girl, right, this New Young was giving him attention and liked him, obviously he's not completely not getting any attention at all. So this is when Gary Bricado comes up, and he studied some of the most prolific serial killers, and I do really like Gary, but I've seen him come on a lot of these shows, and he hasn't studied Bryan specifically, so he's just talking from his professional experience on his opinion. So it sucks hearing him come on here because I really do like Gary. So but then they talking about September 10th, 2022, that Nue baked a cake. She leaves it on her counter saying that she burnt it, and comes back and supposedly finds it in the microwave. And then she goes into her bathroom and finds all her cosmetics lined up in her bathroom, like, perfectly. And that a watch and a personal letter are missing from her apartment. And then she gets scared, so she calls Bryan at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then later, like the next day, or they didn't really specifically say when, but that she can't find the key to her apartment, that she left in the drawer at her office. Why would you leave a key to your apartment in your drawer at your office? That makes no sense. Then they try to insinuate that she says to Bryan, I can't find my key, and that the key magically appears in her desk shortly after. She asks Bryan to install a security system for her and then she's worried that it could be on his phone too. She declined to comment to Dateline. So for me, it's like all this stuff that you guys are talking about is null and void because it's not coming directly from her, right? Then an FBI profiler, Greg Cooper, talked about Bryan's altercation at work, talked about Bryan Googling sociopathic traits in college students. Again, that could be part of his research. He was stopped with that WSU cop officer that we have the body cam footage of, Officer Lewingus. And 5 days later, Google's can sociopaths behave prosocially? And then Google's his name 4 times in 13 days. And then November 1st, takes a photo of his car in a parking lot. And then November 2nd, meets with the professor and the director to talk about the improvement plan. And then they talked about a confrontation with a female student that was reported to staff. We have yet to hear from that student or see that report. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt as of right now. Commented with, they said on November 7th, he connected with the cell tower that was near the house within 100 meters of the house. I've seen a lot of testimony with regards to Ray, so I'm going to hold my opinion on that right now because I want to see both professionals' opinion in court. And then they talked about November 10th, stopped using his debit card and using counter forensic methods to clear school computer. So then I was thinking about, well, isn't that what he's specifically studying, is counter forensics? And so he could be practicing for school by doing it on his own school computer. So a lot of these things could be explained away. And it's hard for me to take it like definitively this is concerning behavior. I mean, the explicit words that were Googled could be concerning, but then that could also be explained away that that's just someone's preference. Then they go back to Ashlyn, so that she lived in the house, she moved out, parents asked her to watch the dogs that night, and so she didn't end up going. On November 12th, they did give a timestamp when the football game ended, which was 7:12 p.m., and then they said Bryan was watching it at 8:08 p.m., he was watching YouTube, and then Kaylee posts photo of the whole group of them that last night at 9 p.m. on Instagram. Then they go to November 13th, 1:37 a.m. is when they're saying that they're leaving the corner club. Now, we saw the timestamp from that still that was given at 1:32. They show up on the camera at the grub truck at 1:41. It takes 6 minutes minimum from the walk from corner club to the grub truck. So if you're backtracking that, that would not be 137 leaving the corner club. It would be 135. So the timeline is already a little bit off, in my opinion, unless we have other footage or other ways to corroborate this, which we have not seen. Then another discrepancy that I didn't understand, they said at 1:49 they called a frat member for a ride. But wasn't it a private driver? Wasn't Eric Gower the one that drove them home? And wasn't he the one who told Olivia, the sister of Kaylee, of the grub truck footage, or like guiding her to that to see if there was footage there? And that's how she got that Twitch footage. They were talking about the calls made to Jack D. We've heard all this at 2:26 a.m., which might not be the right time. And then they said that Brian's phone stops reporting at 2:54, 3:30. That the neighbors, that new footage, that's when they start seeing the car come around, and it picks up a sound and a thud, and the dog barks. When you hear this dog barking in that specific clip that they play, this dog is barking like it's barking at something, not to get someone's attention or playing around. It is barking. And you're telling me that these roommates that are in the same house don't hear this dog going off, and that the roommates do nothing? And then they said another uncomfortable detail, that the person who did this carved Ethan's lower legs. I've never heard that detail before. That is brand new information, and if that's true, why is that being let out right now before trial? They also said that whoever did this left impressions of blood on a chair, and that he sees Dylan Mortensen as he's leaving, but does nothing to her. And then they have on camera at 4:20 timestamp that the car is speeding off from the scene, and that they're assuming that he thinks Dylan's going to call the cops, and people say that he had but then you had Steve Gonzalez saying, oh, he had a kill kit, and that's how he was so clean, and that's why blood isn't anywhere, but then you see him speeding off at 4:20. That makes no sense. They're saying at 6:28 the next morning, Brian is making calls to his father. At 7:30, the girls are awake and using their phones. At 10:31, a selfie is taken, which we've seen that new selfie of Brian. That he was driving near Lewiston, which could have thrown the knife in the river. And then Howard Bloom tries to say that the roommates were totally shocked by everything, and that they saw someone, were scared, and that makes zero sense to me, because you hear the dog barking like crazy. You see Xana on the floor facing the wall, and you do nothing. It's weird, because the way that they're talking about this is if either they're both scared at the same time and they're not, and that they think she's just drunk and on the floor. So which is it? Either you're really scared and you're calling 911 and you're calling for help and you're running down to Bethany's room, or you're not scared and you see Xana on the floor, which as a good roommate you think you'd go over and pick her up and put her in bed, right? Or at least check on her and make sure she's okay if you're seriously not that scared. But then you also saw someone in your house and you think you don't put two and two together at all. At least check on them. And Kaylee and Maddie upstairs too. And then they were saying afterway at like November 16th, which is 3 days after the murders, at 9:16 a.m. that he Googles the University of Idaho murders because he probably heard about it. And then the day before at 4:34, he had click activity of buy now of a K-bar knife. And again, he might just have heard about the case and was looking into it. They said on November 18th at 12:16 a.m. he Googles Ted Bundy, or he was watching something about the King Road victims and Ted Bundy. He replaced his DMV plates on that day. He's from Pennsylvania, so he had to get those replaced. Then they say, this is the concerning part, he saved 60 times different things of reporting of the case. And then on November 22 at 7:09, he looked at a K-bar knife sheath, but he didn't purchase it, and he said at the same time he's trying to delete his activities. Now, we'll see all this information, I'm sure, at trial, and we'll have two experts explaining from prosecution and defense. So I'm going to hold off my opinions on this stuff of the activity of Amazon, because we don't understand it, and I don't understand it, and I'm not going to act like I do until I hear a professional explain what it means. So I'm going to hold off right there. I got a little bit more, so you're going to have a quick part 3, so make sure you come back for that.